I'm so sick of all of this, man. I'm just so sick and tired. When what's his name, Pete Davidson, mocked Dan Crenshaw about his eye, I was like, come on, man. Low blow, mocking someone's appearance, the disability, especially when it was done as a sacrifice, essentially. This guy somebody who stood up to do what they thought was right, risk their lives. I don't agree with what the United States is doing overseas. Never, never, never. But I'm never going to blame the individuals who are doing what they can to try and make the world a better place. There are a lot of people on the left, and I'll say this too about people on the left. I absolutely 100% respect people who stand up for what they believe, voice their opinion. I have defended many people on the far left and Russiagate and all that when they're challenging, whatever. I said about Brie Larson and Chris Evans, and Mark Ruffalo, they are very political. They say mean things, but you know what? I respect them for speaking up about what they believe. It's very difficult to do this. I humbly disagree. And ultimately what it comes down to is no violence. But this really it just really digs at my inner being that you can have someone like Dan Crenshaw who is he seems like a very chill dude. His response to the SNL thing was very relaxed. And now he's being accused of all this nonsense, and he's being openly mocked by these fringe weirdos who are literally mocking him for his disability. How can we live in a world where you have people claiming to try and end hate speech who openly engage in it? Antifa and Portland screaming racial slurs, and now this dude making fun of Dan Crenshaw for his disability. I can't stand these people. I just can't. Okay? I can say it time and time again. I don't like hate speech. I want people to stop the hate speech. That includes the left. Okay? I think it's wrong when people on the right do it, 100%. I don't think people should be banned or arrested. I think we should have a conversation and try and come to people with an olive branch and open arms and compromise for a solution. What do? They claim the moral high ground. They claim they're fighting to stop hate speech, and then they say absolutely absurd nonsense in response to Dan Crenshaw over and over again, and the dude's not even a mean guy. It's like... What I brought up is that his response to Ilhan Omar over the 9/11 thing was literally him saying unbelievable. It's quite literally a harumph. It's you get criticism. As criticism goes, that was probably the most appropriate thing a politician could say to criticize someone else. Unbelievable. That's not he's not insulting her, he's not attacking her faith. He's just literally saying look what she did. That's unbelievable. And it's yeah, okay, I agree. And the response? People go after him for his disability. Verified Twitter users on the left. Let's look at this. Dan Crenshaw, an Afghan war veteran who lost an eye in an IED attack, is now under an avalanche of leftist mockery simply for daring to suggest that Ilhan Omar downplayed the September 11th, 2001 terror attacks when she referred to them as some people did something in a speech last week. Crenshaw has been derided by the left and mocked for having sustained a war wound. In the days since he tweeted that Omar was the first member of Congress to ever describe terrorists who killed thousands of Americans on 9/11 as some people who did something. Unbelievable. She literally did describe 9/11 as some people did something. There are people on the left claiming it's fake outrage. It's wait, hold on. This is not an out of context quote. This is literally what she said in the context of 9/11. She referred to 9/11 as some people who did something that offended a lot of people. I think she was trying to make a point about outside of what 9/11 really is, it's a threat now to the civil liberties of people who are being associated with it. That's a fine point to make, but like Candace Owens and her comments on, Nazi Germany, Ilhan Omar and her comments on some people did something, some people are going to get upset about it. Again, I know people are going to get mad saying that I'm comparing the two, but the point I'm trying to make is not whether one is right or wrong, but that I recognize that there's probably some actual concern over these comments. And more importantly, what I mean to say, I guess the better point is, Candace Owens probably needed to, better explain the problems of Nazi Germany. I personally think it was just she could have done better, but I'm not outraged oh God, what did she say? Because I think when it comes to what Candace Owens said, she made the point about how he wanted everyone to be German and want to take over the world. And the funny thing about that is she said, if he just wanted to make, Germany great, then fine. And then the left got mad about that. And I'm kind of are they implying they thought he was making things fine? I don't understand what they're saying. What he did made nothing fine. Anyway, but ultimately the point I'm trying to bring up is when it comes to Ilhan Omar making this statement about some people doing something, she needed to be stronger in her pushback on what 9/11 was. And she could have said something very simply listen, we recognize the utter, monstrosity and horror that was 9/11. But we have to recognize, too, that fear can drum up out of this that can negatively impact good Americans who may have their civil liberties threatened. Instead, she said some people who did something. And in response, what did Crenshaw say? Unbelievable. I literally mean this when I say unbelievable is probably the lightest degree of criticism you can give somebody. Ha! You said that? That's unbelievable. It's not an insult. It's not targeting her on anything outside of just like, wow, she said that, right? What happens? Initially, the criticism aimed at Crenshaw was just strange. Ocasio-Cortez accused Crenshaw of failing to address terrorism because he did not sign on as a co-sponsor to a bill making federal health benefits for 9/11 survivors permanent. Omar is a co-sponsor. But not only was Crenshaw battling actual terrorists while Omar was plotting a run for Congress and deriding the existence of Israel on social media, but the bill doesn't require supporters to become co-sponsors. And it's not clear Crenshaw doesn't support the common sense measure. The House has yet to vote on the bill. They seriously tried dragging him, claiming he didn't support 9/11 victims when he literally went overseas and lost an eye. Look, I'll say it again. I've always been a lefty. I was never in support of the war. I was never in support of what the United States was doing. I am firmly opposed to it. But I don't pass the blame onto the people who stood up and said, let me do something for this country. There are so many stories of people who saw what happened on 9/11 were shocked, saying, I need to do something. And they joined up. And they found themselves overseas in essentially a fake war in Iraq, a terrible situation in Afghanistan. The mainstream media pushing the WMD nonsense also led people to believe these things. So am I going to be mad that Dan Crenshaw was over? No. He seems like a pretty good dude. I disagree with his positions, and that's really it. We live in this country. We want to compromise with each other and figure out how we can live together, and that's what it's all about. He joined. I respect his decision. I do not respect those in media who lied about it, and the people working in government who pushed these, pushed this unjust nonsense. But I'm certainly not going to blame him or mock him for what he sustained due to what other people were tricking people into doing. It's complicated. It's really complicated. But you had okay, so let's read on. Over the weekend, Crenshaw posted a video of himself defending his criticism and calling for deference to 9/11 victims in an interview with NBC. That's when all hell really broke loose. He said, "This week was a new low in partisanship and dishonesty. I watched in disbelief as some covered for Omar by coming after me with lies and absurd claims that I don't support 9/11 victims. What a disgusting, dishonest tactic. Why turn this into political football?" He didn't even target anybody out in this response. He didn't refer to those who were coming after him. He just mentioned Omar's statements, right? So I can respect that. He's, again, not dragging other people into this. Talia Lavin already making a name for herself, asking why anyone should treat September 11th as sacred, responding by calling Crenshaw Captain S-Head. That's crazy. And now here's the thing, too, about the sacred comment. Talia Lavin said, who is it sacred? Why is it sacred and to who? And she responded later by saying she meant literally in the sense that it's holy. And I still think it's tactless to put that tweet out. But some people were saying, well, it's not as bad. She was trying to make a direct reference to a religious issue about 9/11 instead of something else. Whatever you want to believe, I think it was rather tactless, but sure, take your opinion and go. The real victim, Captain S-Head speaks, wrote Lavin. Freelance writer Rob Rousseau, apparently determined to elevate the conversation, decided to go after Crenshaw for his missing eye, tweeting, "You're deliberately lying about what you said, you eyeless F." Like, damn, dude. Do not, wow. There's very few things that would set me off to actually step up and well, I would never be the person to throw the first punch. I would try and be like, let's get, back off. If man, but let me just say, not Dan Crenshaw. Let's say I'm out at a bar and there's somebody in a wheelchair and someone like this walks up and says something like, you legless, you spineless, or whatever. You're asking for trouble, buddy, okay? I don't like hate speech, right? I don't like it. I understand the right to say it, and I'm not gonna, like I said, as much as some of these things really want to light me up, I wouldn't throw the first punch, no. But I would definitely push back. Not necessarily push a person. I mean, like, stand up, be like, no, we're not playing this game, Not cool. Not acceptable. You can't be on the left claiming to oppose hate speech, which literally includes ableism, and then throw something like that around. Like, dude, how dark, man. That sets me off. You know what? And listen, I'll say it. Racism sets me off substantially worse than this does. Absolutely. If I was like, you're asking for a fight when you start throwing these things around. I get it. But again, I am a mature adult. I know when to choose your battles, when not to fight. And right. But I'm just trying to express that of all the things that could probably set me off, make me angry enough, these things are definitely that. Twitter eventually removed Rousseau's masterpiece of a tweet. Good. I mean, I don't know if that's good, actually. Listen, I'm going to walk that back, actually. Good because it emotionally satisfied me at the moment, but even after I just thought about it, I'm like, I want to know this guy says these things. I want to know he feels these things. I want to know he thinks it's appropriate to say this to somebody like Dan Crenshaw. Good, let him say it. He's a bad person, and now we know. Congratulations, you've exposed yourself to being the bad person you are, and that's more important. There's admittedly an emotional satisfaction in seeing hate speech, mean, and just horrible, like these horrible things removed. But again, can't let emotions take over, and we got to recognize that, you know what? Because he was able to say this crap, we now know what kind of person he really is. So the craziest thing about the escalation, which I'll end with, is what I highlighted this the other day, is that in response to him saying unbelievable, she called it dangerous incitement. We have, not this tweet, let's see, this guy. Jamil Smith said, is this the right one? No, wait, hold on. Okay, no, I don't think I have the tweet I was looking for. Unless this is it. Well, let me just read this one. This story from a survivor encapsulates how Republicans have used the 9/11 tragedy. Dan Crenshaw went hysterical to get people mad at Omar, but there is no debating this. She supports renewing the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund. He has yet to do so. There was another tweet that I wanted to highlight where they kept talking about how this was a dangerous escalation of violence and stuff like this. And I was going to pull this one up to talk about how, like, they're trying to smear Dan Crenshaw now, claiming he went hysterical. But I'll say one more thing before signing off on this video. Hysterical, really? He literally just said unbelievable. It's like the opposite of hysteria. It's like actually rather tepid criticism. But you know what? Whatever, man. Of all the people you're going to go after, he's not even like a mean dude. You know, saying unbelievable is like, again, it's like the lightest thing you can say. And when someone says something like that about you, you'd imagine the response would be like, oh, I kind of feel bad now, you know? Not angry. I don't know, whatever. I'm going to leave it there. I believe I have one more video coming up in a few minutes. I will see you then.